Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for braving the thunder and potential lightning and meeting with us tonight. I know we've got a little bit of a smaller group. I know a couple people are on their way, so they'll probably join us late. It's a little bit harder to do it right now. Normally this is when we try to pick who's going to do snacks for next week.
I will. We will.
You will?
We will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
I was going to say, if not somebody in here, then we will ask again on Sunday.
And this is fifth Sunday coming up, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, sir. So that is the other, so other than the snacks, the next announcement is after church on this Sunday. It's fifth Sunday, so there will be a potluck, so stay tuned after the sermon and we will have a potluck lunch. Looking forward to seeing everybody and getting to dine with everybody and then enjoying some good food. And then the only other announcement that we have is that we're still doing the shoe drive. I know we forgot a pair of shoes at the house. I think there's an extra one over there, so I'm pretty sure we're at 30 now. If not, we're at 29. And we still have donations that haven't been shopped with yet, so there will be more shoes to come in the coming weeks. So the goal that we moved it to for 40 should be pretty easily attainable before the end of July. And as a Sunday school class, we'll call it the adult Sunday school class, I guess. I don't know what we call our age group, but the working class Sunday school group, we've already kind of come up with our next idea. So when there's more people here, we'll kind of go over what we're going to be doing next and then kind of share those details as we move forward. That way, as a church as a whole, you guys know what we have in plan for missions.
She's not going to shop for shoes for a bit, right?
It'll probably be a couple weeks. So the plan was all
all
the donations that we get in June, we'll probably get those the first week of July, and then she'll go shopping. So yeah, there's still time.
Go bank and get some cash.
Pending any more announcements, we will pray and dive into this. So, okay, bow your heads with me. Lord, we come to you tonight in hopes to learn what true faithfulness is. And we ask that you guide your Spirit to help us understand how to be better about trusting you and trusting others. In your most honorable name we pray. Amen. All right, so I kind of gave you guys a heads up on what this lesson was the last time we met. So this week's lesson, and if it goes long, we'll make it a 2-night lesson, is over faithfulness. So do you guys remember how you felt when you were young? And when I mean young, I mean like them young. When you were young and a child and your birthday approached.
I still
She still feels that way. All right, so she already knows where I'm going with this. All right, so name some of the things that you feel when your birthday approaches.
excitement.
Excitement, okay.
Happiness.
Happiness. Are you like anxiously excited? Okay. Would that explain, I mean, you said you feel the same way. Is that how you felt as a kid?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Is that how y'all felt about your birthday coming up?
Anticipating.
Mm-hmm.
Anticipation. Okay, perfect. You?
It's another day.
Oh, you're like me.
Sometimes disappointed.
Sometimes disappointed, but not as a kid though, right?
I was excited about the fireworks.
I guess I don't follow. When's your birthday?
The 3rd of
July 3rd.
Gotcha.
July. Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Well, my family, my parents, we didn't celebrate birthdays.
You did it? Okay.
It goes back to the fact there was 11 kids in Daddy's family and 8 in Mother's family. No money for presents. And Mother might fry chicken call it a birthday dinner.
I don't know. Fried chicken's pretty good. That wouldn't be a bad birthday dinner, but
Oh.
yeah, 11 kids. That's Yeah, if you celebrate every birthday, you'd probably be celebrating a birthday every other week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, excited, anxious, anticipation. You know, when we're sitting there and you're talking about your birthday, there's an expectation of what you guys are expecting, right? You're expecting presents, maybe a party, you know, a nice meal or something like that. When you were young and you were thinking about that birthday, or if you're thinking about the birthday now, if it's still exciting to you now, is there some level of surprise? And I don't mean
The feeling?
And I don't mean like, you know, oh, you got surprised because you had a surprise party. I mean, when you get, whatever you received on your birthday, if it was something that you didn't anticipate, were you surprised? And it could be a gift, it could be a meal, or it could be just a showing of appreciation, you know, for you and your day.
Nelda, when she was still living, we were down around together, fixed me a birthday cake. That's the only one I ever got in my life.
Really? Sounds like you're owed another one.
Huh?
Sounds like you're owed another one.
Oh, another one?
Yeah, you want another birthday cake?
Oh, for birthday, I don't care about the cake too much.
Oh.
Just glad to get the birthday.
Yeah. Okay, so surprise. You know, were there times when you were younger where there was a level of surprise with your birthday? Did you ever get a gift that you didn't anticipate or expect?
Trying to think of a gift that I remember.
So you
Had a
guessed all your
clown
gifts
show
before
up
you got them? Huh?
I had a clown once that I wasn't expecting. They had a clown show for a
Magician
birthday
and clown
party. Yeah,
show.
I wasn't expecting that.
That
That was
was
cool.
pretty good, actually, wasn't it?
Okay. So when we sit there and we think about birthdays, especially as kids, right? And I think that's the important part, not necessarily now, but as kids, you know, and especially whenever we see our kids, you see that excitement in them. You see that overjoyous anxiety about, oh my gosh, my birthday's coming, right? I want to do this, I want to do this. My kids start planning their birthdays out and their parties out several months in advance. It's like, you know, I think June did it to me most recently. It was right after my birthday a few months ago, and she goes, you know, I think I want to do this for my birthday party. And her birthday's in January, and it's like, can we get to your sister's birthday party first, which is in September, before we try planning yours? That's almost a year away. Like, can we get through another party and Christmas first? And she's like, okay, I guess. You know, I just wanted you to know I'm thinking about it. It's like, awesome, right? So that kind of level of excitement is what we're ideally talking about, right? With the idea of a birthday. So when we sit there and we think about birthdays, there's some comparisons, right? So with birthdays, like faith, there's a combination of assurance and anticipation, right? So with that being said, since we're drawing some parallels there with excitement and anxiety, you know, not always bad anxiety, but good anxiety, and assurances and stuff like that, how would you guys define faith or being faithful?
I wouldn't associate the two.
Associate to what?
The faithful and having excitement, and usually like when I'm in moments of my faith being tested, it's usually like troubling times, or I'm like,
Okay.
okay, I'm gonna have to have a moment
It's
of
a conscious effort.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but when it's not being tested, and we can talk about this a little bit more too as we go into more examples and stuff like that, because obviously we have an example. Every week we have examples of different types of everything, but when it's not being tested and you're, for lack of better words, steadfast in your faith, define it. And you're not, for lack of better words, scared
yeah.
or anxious about it. How do you feel? And
It's
then
just calm, you know, like
Calm.
I remember there being situations like, God's got this. No,
Okay.
I'm not worried about it, but I guess it's hard for me to describe since I can't think of a specific
Okay.
instance.
Well, hopefully we can come up with one where you can kind of relate to. So, when your faith has been tested and you come out on top, or that your faith was accepted, if you will, was there not excitement in that, or was it just relief?
I think you're gonna have to reword that.
Okay, so say that you talked about how your faith gets tested, and in a time of being tested, it's a little troublesome.
Okay, ask question.
So when your faith when your faith got tested, after the test was over, and you, for lack of better words, came out on top. Instead of finding yourself in that rut, you're out of the rut. Things are looking up and looking good,
Praising the Lord.
right? Are you excited then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's kind of where we're not always looking at the sour or dour part of faith. I want to also focus on the plus side of it, right?
And sometimes, depending on what it is grateful to, like
Yeah. Okay.
if it wasn't maybe the answer that I was looking for, but
Okay.
the hindsight gives you some, what I was asking for wasn't really that great. Thank you for getting
Okay.
me through that.
So with all that, so now that we've had a little bit more of a back and forth, define faith. And it doesn't have to be just you.
I just think it's a conscious effort to believe God's going to always come through.
Okay. So a conscious effort that God's always going to come through. Okay.
Or a conscious thought.
Okay.
I mean, but you have to put it into practice.
Sure. Not that I want to deviate from this, particularly right now, but can faith be exercised with anybody other than God?
Well, I have faith in Him.
Perfect. Good. We're going to get to that. That's actually one of our first examples is spousal. So, good evening. Are you dry?
Kind of.
Okay. All right. So, since you weren't here, I'm going to pick on you. We've heard some other definitions. Define faith. Sorry. And afterwards, you can have a cookie.
Or popcorn.
Belief that something is going to happen regardless of seeing it.
Woo! That might be the perfect definition right there. That's going to sound really close to what I'm going to say later. So if you didn't hear, a belief that something's going to happen even without seeing it. Right? Without proof that it's going to happen, you believe it's going to happen anyway. Okay? Good definition. Good definition. Good discussion. Okay, so now that we've kind of defined what faith is, and we've kind of talked about what some of the practices of being faithful is and whatnot, I want to go over a few different types of relationships and what being faithful in those relationships is. So you were awesome and brought up the first example that we're going to talk about, and it's probably one of the easiest ones for this group in particular. Spouse, right? So when you're sitting there, and I'm going to lead off with you since you're the one that brought it up, you said that other than God, you have faith in your spouse. What does that look like, and what does that mean? How, why, and what does it look like when you have faith in Lloyd?
Hey, one question at a time, okay?
No, I'm just,
When we decided that we were going to spend our lives together, I mean, you make those vows, you make those promises to be there for each other.
Okay.
And,
so for you, the why is a promise.
and because He wants to. I know He wants to take care of me, and He does.
Yeah. Okay, how do you know that?
I see it all the time. He took me to Dallas today. I didn't
took
have
you to Dallas?
drive, yeah.
Okay. Did you, not to get into your personal business, and if you don't feel comfortable answering it, it's fine. Did you believe that the moment you guys said your vows, or did it take time for you to believe that that's what He wanted?
No, I always believed it. But
Okay.
they were high school sweethearts. We'd been together for a while. So.
Okay, so would you say that you had faith in him and what he wanted and how he felt before you actually married him?
Yes.
Okay. I'm assuming you feel the same way?
Oh, yeah.
Not to put you in the hot seat.
Yeah, feel the same way. for sure.
Okay. Is that easy for y'all to have? Was it at the time? Was it easy for y'all to have that type of faith in one another?
I always felt like it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was raised in the church. I was raised in the church.
Okay.
Not
Both
the
are.
same church, different
Sure.
denominations, but still.
Both our parents were good examples of
Yeah,
how
That
you
helped.
treat each other.
That helps
yeah.
tremendously. Okay. What does it mean to express faith with your spouse since you're here and he's here? Do you have faith in your spouse? I'm assuming yes.
Yes.
Okay. Was that easy to come by?
Yes.
Okay. How come?
He's always done what he said he's going to do,
Ah, okay.
and he's always had. If, I don't even know how to verbalize what I'm thinking. My betterment has always been a priority for him.
Okay.
My well-being has always been a
Right.
priority for him.
So he's put
I
you
know
first.
that,
He's put you
yeah.
first. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm gonna assume that you have a similar response.
Uh, for me, having faith in people takes me a while.
Okay.
It's not something that's given freely. The trust is always earned. And,
Okay.
we have been together a long time. We were together a long time before we got engaged and then before we got married. And, but as she stated, every time she was like, this is what I'm going to do. She did it. This is what I'm not going to do. She didn't do it. And she earned it.
Okay. So, for generally speaking, and you can tell me if I'm, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. What you're saying is for you personally, faith in people is not something that comes inherently. It's something that's built upon and worked towards. Right? Okay. Since you brought up other people other than just your spouse and that how it's hard for y'all when we pivot this, and yes, this is still a familial one, what about our children? Is it easy to have faith in our children, and how is that expressed? And I'm really interested in hearing y'all's points on this because your kids are obviously older than everybody else in the room. So I'll come back to y'all if that's okay. So for y'all and for me and Emmy, our kids aren't much different in age. How do y'all express your faith in your relationship with? I think Grayson's probably too young to have that type of relationship.
Yeah.
So let's kind of focus on Raylan, right? Because you have more interactions with her. So how do you guys express faith in your relationship with your daughter? And I'm asking both of you.
I think at this age, it's just allowing some boundaries to be a little bit more loose with her.
Okay.
And giving her the opportunity to make us have faith in her.
Basically,
Like,
you're giving her a chance to hang herself.
yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
But at the same time, there's also, I have faith that she's gonna mess up because she's still learning.
Yeah. Well,
You know.
yeah. I mean, you know she's gonna mess up
Yes.
just because that's just the nature of the beast, right? Okay.
Yes.
Did you have anything to add to that, Sam? You're good with all that?
But that's where grace comes into play. I don't
Okay.
think that she's gonna go out and murder anybody, steal somebody's car or anything like that. I think she's inherently good.
Okay. But for you guys are more open to the idea of playing loosey-goosey with her because you guys have faith that she's a good person and that she'll be a good kid and she won't do
Yeah.
really evil things as
Right.
opposed to just stuff that's
Right.
sinful.
Mhm.
Okay? And yes, we're humanizing it.
Yes.
Okay? Before I ask them the follow-up question to this, which they probably know is coming, how about y'all? With your kids being older, how do you guys express that faith in your relationship now that they're no longer little kids?
I know if we really needed them, they would be there. We try not to burden them with that
Okay?
because we still have each other and we still feel like we're pretty independent. But, there'll be a time we may need to rely on them more and have faith that they'll be there for us. Right now, we just want them to be happy in their families.
Sure.
I'm gonna actually interject on that. Y'all also show faith in us by not butting in. Y'all.
Okay?
I mean, I'm sure you have your opinions and.
I'm glad you decided to pivot there for a second.
Yeah.
How is your relationship as their child?
Mhm.
So how do you express your faith in them as a parent? And I'll come to you
I
here in
know
a
that
second.
if I needed help with something, that they would do their best to help.
Okay. So you guys have
Whether
a
it's parenting.
for you it's a lifelong commitment of your parents being faithfully there
Mhm.
and being there for
She'll
you in
always
every
be our daughter.
what's up?
She'll always be our daughter.
Oh, I think she'll always be your daughter whether you're faithful or not. That's the kicker, right? But I think that's the difference between a good parent and a bad parent.
And
Is,
with that, we got a son.
yeah, totally. Okay, so for you, it's, you grew up having that faith because it never wavered
Right.
with them, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, since you don't have kids, I'm not going to pick on you on that one, but your parents, and I know that I think you have a different viewpoint here because I think at one point, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, you had your faith, you had reason for your faith to be questioned with your parents, but then you saw it change for the better.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Honestly, my mom was the one that I could always have faith in.
Okay.
Her being there for me.
So she was the foundation?
Yes, and she's honestly a lot of the foundation as to why and how I believe and how I'm supposed to be leaning on God to
Okay.
begin with. But my dad was the one that I always questioned because he was still learning as well.
Right.
And that didn't happen until I became a teenager, so.
So, in that unique position, and I'm only saying unique because of who's in the room, so forgive me. How was having that faith in your mom? How did that relationship flourish after the fact once your dad improved for the better?
How did my relationship with my mom
Yeah.
change?
Yeah, and has it changed?
It's changed a little bit, but not too much.
I mean, I don't think it's changed for the worse. How's
No,
it?
it's
To me,
it's
I would
gotten stronger and
Okay.
more how I am to be as a Christian woman.
Okay.
As far as needing to lean on God, she was basically my example of what I should be doing. As that, I know my mom isn't perfect, but
Sure. Nobody is.
yeah.
But
But
I have a personal relationship with your mom, my aunt, and obviously I love her too. Would you say that your faith in your mom grew?
yeah.
Even
Yeah.
after the faith in your dad grew, once that relationship improved?
Because there were times where I wasn't sure as a kid that my parents were ever going to be together.
Right.
So that I'm
Okay.
so I kind of followed my mom's lead when she had the faith to stay and work on her marriage. I'm like, okay, I've got to trust one of these parents and have faith in one of these parents. Who am I gonna do?
Right.
Because I love both of them, but
Sure.
my mom was the one.
But one's really good at honoring your faith, and the other one
Mhm.
wavered from time to time. Right? Yeah. I know it improved.
Yeah.
So I'm not picking on them.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. Since you haven't talked yet, what we're talking about is faithfulness with your children, and then we kind of pivot it because we have a unique opportunity where not only are their children here, but then, and their children are here, but also her parents are here. So we started talking about pivoting that faithfulness with your parents. But if you would like to, how do you express faith with our girls?
I'm not sure that I understand the question.
So do you have faith in our kids?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. How and
Okay,
what does
I-
that look?
I-
How
I
and what does that
actually-
look like?
I can give you an example on the.
Okay, good. That's
on
what I was
the-
hoping for.
On the way back here, Juliet was talking about school and she had gotten in trouble with one of her teachers. She was trying to clean her desk and they had a substitute. And apparently she's very meticulous when she cleans something. When she actually cleans it, she's a little OCD. And the substitute told her that if she didn't hurry up, she was going to the principal's office. And Juliet was like, that's kind of harsh. She's like, I'm just trying to do a good job. But she looked at me while, as I'm driving, and she says, but Mom, I wasn't being mean. She said, I was just being honest. She's like, you believe me, don't you? Of course I believe you. I know your heart. I know what you were intending. I'm
The
like,
teacher might not have, but
yes,
I do.
and,
Yeah.
So I had to explain to her that, we have to say things a little differently. Even if you're thinking it, you can't always just blurt it out.
It's good to know that she inherited my tech.
Yes,
too.
she's very tactful, just like her dad.
Okay. So I think we've kind of talked about familial relationships quite a bit now. Kind of moving away from familial, let's talk about friends. And when we say friends, let's not talk about church family, because that's a little bit more intimate than a normal friend. When we say friends, let's say people that are outside of your church family and your actual family. So, cousins and stuff like that don't apply. So, do we have faith in our friends and who our friends are? Yeah. Yeah. Sure. You're going,
I have expectations.
okay. Do you have a chance to express faith with them?
Yes.
Obviously, it's a little bit different than with parents and kids and stuff, and your spouse. What does that look like? And no, you don't have to be the only one to answer.
Well, I have two really good friends from high school still.
Okay.
And
Lucky you.
do it.
I said lucky you.
Oh, I don't know about that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That's okay. I have a better person to pick on when she's ready to start speaking up, because she has more than two.
Yeah. One of them is not reliable,
Okay.
but has the best heart. Just can't.
Okay. So you have you know that she's not reliable, so you basically don't come to her with that type of stuff, whatever that kind of reliability is,
Right.
because you know that she's not reliable.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Like if I said I need you to be there at 12 o'clock, I would have faith that they'd be there at 1 o'clock.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
And I'm
But
guessing
you
he
still
knows who.
have faith that they would be there,
If
right?
they were important enough, yes.
Yeah.
If it was important enough.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. You're gonna talk on this one. Did you have anything that you wanted to add on this one?
I thought I had faith in my friend,
Talk about the one. Okay.
but she kind of just, I don't know how to explain that. Like
She
made-
chose. I think the easiest way to word it without throwing her under the bus is she chose herself over your friendship, right? And that is obviously in that situation. I don't think you did that. I think you chose your friendship over yourself, and your faith was not awarded, right? Because then she chose herself instead, and not only is the friendship strained, are you guys? I would argue that you guys aren't even friends anymore, right?
No, we're not.
Yeah, and that sucks. So, yeah, okay. You, who has more friends in here than anybody can probably count, speak up. And don't make me start listening to people's names. How do you express faithfulness in your friendships? To help Jesse, Mac, Sandy,
He said he wasn't
Wendy,
going to do that.
all of
He
them.
wasn't gonna
No, she's giving me this look like, who should I talk about? It's like,
Well, it's not that it's who I should talk about.
David.
I don't really know. I don't know. Let me think how I would say I express faith in my friends. I am very blessed. God has been incredibly good to me, and my entire life I have been an introvert and don't like having friends, and God literally said, too bad, you're going to have friends anyway. And I've had all these wonderful people come into my life that they're family, and my family just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing, and I was like,
Sure.
okay, I see you, God, I'm supposed to have lots of friends in my life, you know.
okay, so then would you say that with those friends, did you ever have faith with them before you were proven wrong? Since you're an introvert?
Probably not. I mean, it probably took me a while to realize that, you know, I could trust people.
Okay.
And it's not that I think everybody's bad or anything like that. I think I always felt like I was a little bit, guarded, a little bit of an outcast.
Understatement. She didn't hear you, but yes, understatement.
What did she say?
Guarded.
Yes. So, you know, I felt like maybe I wasn't that likable of a person.
Okay.
And so, I did. I really felt that way. And so,
Did
you
you?
know,
My eyes didn't roll on that one. My head rolled on that one.
but that's how I felt.
Okay.
You know, genuinely felt that way. And, you know, when I started developing these friendships, it was very tentatively. It was, you know, this person wants me to hang out with them. I don't know if I should go hang out with them. And then, you know, it would take me, because I get anxiety about that kind of thing, and then I'll be like, no, I shouldn't go. Yeah, okay, maybe I'll go. And then I would say, okay, I'm gonna go. And then the last minute I'd be like, nope, I can't do it, I can't go.
You would talk
And-
yourself out of it.
Yes, and it would take me, I mean, it literally took me a long time to get
It wasn't the back door.
past that stage. But I think that I was lucky enough that even if I didn't have faith in the friendship, the other people had faith in the friendship, you know, and
Okay.
they did, and they didn't give up. And I think that it was that kind of commitment to it that I was like, okay, this person really wants to be my friend. And, you know, I've been very blessed. I've had friends that have seen me through, you know, a really ugly marriage and an even uglier divorce, and, you know, losing loved ones, you know, and they've just been there for me through all of it. So, yeah, I'm blessed. And I do have faith in them.
Okay. I think you brought up an interesting point, and it's not one of our examples on here, so I'm actually going to pivot and switch out one of our categories. Our next category was supposed to be coworkers, and I don't think, to me, coworkers aren't much different than friends, because I think a lot of times for a lot of people, if you have faith in your coworkers, a lot of times they end up becoming friends. But what you brought up, and I think is an important one, and I don't know how it's not an example on here, faith in ourselves, right? So how do we have faith in ourselves? What does that look like? And are we good at having faith in ourselves? I'll come back to you, Emmy.
I think it's probably easiest. It's probably trusting
I mean,
yourself
you know what
is
you can-
probably
you know
the
what you
most
can-
difficult.
Yeah, you know what you can do.
Yeah.
So is having faith in yourself easy?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it does it help when you know who exactly you are?
Yes, and who I believe in.
Okay.
I think before I was saved, I
Okay.
think that I would have not had as much faith
Okay.
in myself.
Okay. I like that distinction. Were you all gonna say something? No? Faith in yourself pretty easy?
Hadn't always been, but
Okay.
it is
But
now.
similar response now that you found faith in something higher, which we'll get to here in a second.
Yeah,
It's a little bit easier to have faith in yourself.
Because you're relying on your faith in God.
Sure.
Mhm.
yeah.
And he's next, I promise. Okay, you? Faith in yourself?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think I've always been, this will be no surprise to you, I've always been a very strong-willed person. So I've always been very independent, and I've always felt very capable of taking care of myself and taking care of other people.
Okay.
But that didn't necessarily make me think that I was likable. I kind of felt more like I always did what had to be done, and I might not be liked for it, but I was going to take care of things.
Sure.
So I think having faith in myself was easy, but learning that that was a likable trait was harder.
Okay.
I think I've also learned over time that you have to give yourself the opportunity to prove that you can rise up to the occasion,
Sure.
you know, and
That way you can figure out who you really are.
right.
Okay.
And it's the same with God too. I mean, like she said earlier, you have to have faith that
Okay.
He's going to come through even if you can't see it. You have to give Him the opportunity to
Okay. Then
do that.
let's go ahead and thinking back. What is it? Before we talk about how it's expressed, what is it? Or what's it supposed to be? But I can't hear her. Submission.
Say it loud for the people in the back.
Surrender. Okay. So it's when we're talking about faith, if we were to put it on a scale, what are we talking about? We're talking bringing it up all the way, or are we talking about going in and just dipping our toes?
Well, to me, it would be all the way. 'Cause-
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we've been there.
Sure. No. Yeah. I think everybody, in their walk of faith, right? There's a crawl, walk, run phase, right?
Mhm.
And I think with every Christian, and it's not a good thing, but I think it's something that we have to realize that there is a crawl, walk, run phase. She's okay.
Can't tell if it's Grayson trying to open the door. If it's
I think it might have gotten locked. Yeah. So I mean, there's obviously a point where you're dipping your toes in, but the idea and the goal is to go full bore, full in, right?
Mhm.
Okay. How do we express that faith with God? What does it actually look like? Because obviously we can say we believe, but saying we believe or saying that we have faith and actually having faith, there's a difference.
I think whenever I think of that, I always think of the song Jesus Take the Wheel.
Okay.
Because it is. It's just one of those things where you realize that His power is so much greater than yours, and that you have to stop trying to enforce your will and let go and let it be His will. And I mean, that's a really challenging thing to do.
Why?
Because we original sin. We're
Well, okay. Other than we're infallible, right?
it's
And-
not just that. It's in our nature to want to do things our way.
Okay.
So it's
Is that what you were gonna say?
Yeah.
yeah, it's
A lot of
recognizing
people are
that.
controlling.
Yes, it's
And they want to control the
Yeah.
situation.
Okay. So it's actually learning and making the choice to let go of that
Yes.
control. Okay. Oh, he wants you.
Baby, come here, honey.
He can sit with you for a little bit if
You
you.
wanna sit with me? You're gonna sit on my lap? Come here, baby. Do I have the same for you? I don't. I'm sorry. Because Juliet took all the snacks out of there.
Oh, kids are wonderful.
Because she knew that you were gonna look
I also also think that
They eat them all first.
having faith in the small things helps you grow your faith too, because it makes you think, if he's going to take care of something as tiny as this,
Okay. Give me an example of something that you would consider tiny. Just so that way we can all relate to Haley more.
I'm running on 10 miles of gas, or 10 miles before I run out of gas, and oh, there pops up a gas station. Like, oh, thank you, Lord. You know, like just something that's not detrimental, like a health situation, or
Sure.
I don't know, or maybe you're $1 short from buying a loaf of bread, and you find $1 on the ground. Like,
Okay.
you know, just something small.
Agreed? Okay, agreed. Okay. How so since you guys are, one, being quiet, and two, a little bit, in theory, farther along in your faith journey, because you've been at it a little bit longer, how do you guys express your faith with God?
I guess in our prayers, you know,
Do
we
you think you pray differently than you did when you were our age?
possibly, we acknowledge, you know, that he's our Lord and that, you know, we know he's going to take care of us and we thank him for doing that.
Okay. I'm assuming here, I guess I should have asked this first. Do you think your faith has grown since you were our age?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Other than time, how do you think that is?
Life tests you along the way. And
Okay.
It's not just time, it's experience too.
Sure,
You know,
okay.
Things you've been through together and with him.
Okay. So when we sit here and we talk about all these different relationships, so spouse, children, parent, parental, friends, most importantly, God, faithfulness is an important part of those relationships, right? We agree? Why is faithfulness important to a healthy relationship? Can you have a healthy relationship without faith?
I think you could interject trust with faith.
Sure.
And if you don't
What's the
have-
difference?
uh,
Is faith and trust the same thing?
In many ways, I'm sure it is.
Okay.
I don't
But
know.
are they similar or are they exact?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I mean, okay, tell me, how do you feel? What do you, so if, when I asked you that, how did it make you feel? Did you feel like trust
I
and
feel
faith?
like it's the same.
Okay,
You know, I trust God and that he's going to take care of things even when things don't seem to be going just right.
okay. So for you, faith and
That's having
trust,
faith.
for you personally, faith and trust are interchangeable.
Probably.
Anybody disagree with that? So to me, I'll probably be the only person to disagree. Because to me, faith is something, if we're talking about the word, it's something special, right? And to me, it's like trust on steroids, right? Where to me, trust is something that I have to convince myself of, right? I have to convince myself that it's trust and whatnot. To me, faith, and I know I'm probably, blowing this out of proportion. To me, faith is, it's a known fact. Like it's, I think a lot of times and this is for me personally, when I hear people talk about the difference between faith and trust, faith, they allow this word faith to have this wiggle room of it's not as mythical and supernatural as it's supposed to be, right? At least that's how I feel about it, right? So to me, faith is choosing to know something and count it as fact, as opposed to there being any wiggle room for non-fact.
Let me agree with you just a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Faith, you could nearly say, is biblical, of
Sure.
God, and trust may be more secular.
Right, and that's
But
kind of how
but
I.
they are kind of
Yeah,
interchangeable.
and I'm not saying that you can't trust God and have faith in Him, because to
Right.
me that's I think it's trust that brings you to faith, at least with God, right? But for me, like I have a biblical sense of faith in her, right? Because I chose to, and I choose to believe that God put her in my path for a reason, and that's not faith to me. That's
There's even a song that says trust and obey, and I think that's
Yeah.
trust kind of does interchange with
Right.
faith at that
so
point.
that's kind of how I look at it, right? So not to blow what you said out of proportion or anything like that, but to me, I take faith to more of a supernatural level. Whether or not that's good or bad or right or wrong, but so why is faith and or trust important for a healthy relationship? And it doesn't necessarily have to be God. Why is it important in all our relationships?
Well, that's without it, there'll always be doubt.
Without it, there'll always be doubt. Doubt like what?
Like, are they actually doing what they're saying they're doing? Are they?
I would
paying
have a
those
hard time
bills
wanting
or-
to have a relationship
Yeah.
with somebody that I couldn't trust or have
Okay.
faith in.
Can you guys think, and I don't need examples, but can you guys think of people that you've had in your lives, not necessarily friends, let's go a little bit more deeper than that, somebody that would be considered a loved one, either a deep, close friend or a familial tie, where you had faith in them and you loved them to that degree, and then obviously it flipped on you. And not because it was something you did, but just because of the nature of the beast, right? Because evil exists, right? So what happened to that relationship when doubt creeped in? Did doubt take over, or did the faith come back on its own?
We still hope some of these relationships can be repaired.
Sure.
And we have trust in God, but that other person's going to have to feel the same way.
Okay. I think that's a good way to put it. You guys agree? That in order for that faith to flourish in that relationship, it has to be reciprocated? Which is, am I assuming that's what you meant? Okay. You guys agree? Definitely? Why definitely? Since I know you've been a little busy or distracted.
I think I would put the difference exactly the way that Dolores said. I think that it is a difference between, being secular and God-driven.
Okay. So we talked about doubt. In what ways can unfaithfulness harm a relationship? Are you laughing at Grayson, or are you laughing? Okay.
He said I was sneaky and I got a cookie. Repeat your question.
Other than doubt, what ways can unfaithfulness harm a relationship?
I mean, it could end a relationship.
I was going to say, so to me, without any so if we're talking about an absence of faith, right? Is that a relationship at that point? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a spouse, and we can talk about spouses or God, but if there's zero faith, if we're talking about true unfaithfulness, so zero faith, if there's zero faith in that in a relationship, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a friendship or anything like that, is it a relationship anymore?
Not so much.
Okay. You don't think so? How come?
Well, I have a person in my life that kind of did that. My uncle.
Okay.
The only thing that I could be faithful on is that he's not going to be faithful.
Yeah, you can trust that he's
Yeah,
gonna be terrible.
Even though I've given multiple chances, it's the repetitive actions, not just with me, my mom, my dad, my sister, his own family. So.
Yeah, I mean, you know that to be true because you have proof.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever have faith or hope that it'll improve?
I did at one point, and that was
Do
where.
you pray for it to improve, at least?
No, not anymore.
You should. Sorry.
Not anymore, but I used to, which is why I gave him the chance to have a
You don't
relationship
have to
with me.
necessarily give him the chance, but still pray for it. Because I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I don't,
Okay.
I don't wish any bad ill will, and I do think he should have it better in his own family.
Sure. Okay.
But
I'm good with that.
Like his
Yep.
kids and whatnot need to come before me
Right.
and my family. because that's who he hurt the most.
Is there other ways that faith or a lack of faith can harm a relationship? I mean, for the most part, I think we kind of covered it. For them, they said it's the end of it. Y'all agree?
I could still have a relationship with someone I no longer have faith in, but you know the limitations
Okay.
of the relationship.
So, but do you, in that manner, you're not necessarily saying that faith can't be restored. You're just saying that the expectation is you know what to expect and what's going to happen. Okay.
Yeah, you lower your standards. Right.
At that
You-
point, like Samuel said, you're going to have to earn it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
But people make mistakes, and we need to not be too bitter about things.
When we're sitting here and we're talking about faith, and then the key word that we've been kind of using is doubt, but what is, in a biblical sense or a spiritual sense, what is doubt really?
Not believing.
Lack of faith.
Lack of faith, but what is it though? So it's not just a lack. Why is it a lack of faith? Because of what?
Fear.
She said it. I pointed at her and she said it. Yes. Good job, Kristen. It's fear, right? Fear, and then it's because you know that, and that's what doubt is, right? So when we sat there and we talked about back in the very first fruit of the Spirit, when we were talking about love, we talked about fear being the love killer, right? Is fear the faith killer? Yeah. I always say there's two F's, right? In the Bible, there's faith and then there's fear, and one's good, one's bad, and obviously the bad one is fear. So I always say, and the pastor, he's not here, but he's heard me say it, where I've said, the F word, and when I say the F word, I usually mean fear. So, when we let fear creep into our relationships, if it kills that faith, how are we supposed to combat that fear?
So you're talking about with God or with people?
I think the Christian answer is, generally speaking, all of the above.
I think there can be a difference though. Like, think if there are situations where God might be intentionally showing you, okay, I don't want you to have a relationship with this person. Like, stop believing in them and believe in me and separate yourself.
Sure, I think that's a very, very finite example. Let's focus on more of the infinite example, right? Where it's not necessarily God showing us not to have that relationship, but it's more us getting in the way. Right? What is that? How do we combat it?
Ask God to work on you.
Yeah, right. The Sunday school answer is go to God, right, and go, hey, yeah, I'm recognizing that fear's taken over. Cure me of this fear and help me to be faithful once again, right? And that's in all relationships. And yes, the easy answer is, but they're not my spouse. I don't have to care about them as much, right? So they can kind of go by the wayside or whatever. Or they're not God, so I don't have to try as hard, right? Isn't that kind of contrary to love thy neighbor? I mean, that's what makes that commandment so hard, right? Is that it's, you don't have to like them, but that word love means that you have to remove fear, because you can't love with fear, right? Can you really love somebody if you're doubting them all the time? I mean, if you're doubting, you don't have faith in them, and I would say that without faith, that love, is it really love?
It's compromised.
It's most definitely compromised.
I've never been in this situation, so I'm just vocalizing this, but I think that there have been people in relationships where they will undoubtedly say that they love their partner, but they have tons of doubt.
Sure.
in their partner.
Okay.
So again, I wouldn't be able to have an example because I've never been in that situation. But to
Okay.
answer your question, I think that
So
Some
if I
people would
heard
answer
you
yes.
if I heard you correctly, you're saying that you've never doubted Sam.
No.
That you've always had faith in Sam. You know, inevitably.
yes.
Okay, that's good. What's that look for? Nothing. Oh, I thought you were giving me a look. Okay. Can we agree on the fear aspect and how it kills faith and then destroys love? Okay. That's what makes fear so bad, right? So when we sit there and we talk about our relationship with God, right, and we have doubts that creep in. You kind of mentioned this earlier that when your faith is being tested, is doubt creeping in? Okay, how do you combat it?
I usually, personally,
Pray harder?
I do, yes, but also have more quiet time and get in the word more.
Okay.
When I am with people, try to surround myself with people that I do trust to,
Set your path straight?
yeah.
I'm helping you since you're
Yeah.
distracted. Okay, anybody else? So she brought up an example earlier where her faith was being tested, right? And since we hadn't really touched on that much, we were kind of dealing in absolutes where you either have faith or you don't. Now we're kind of bringing in the middle ground, for lack of better words, right? So when your faith is being tested, I'm assuming doubt is creeping in because that's why faith isn't at its strongest or its purest, right? So how do you combat that doubt? How do you combat that fear? And I was asking her, and for her it was surround yourself with like-minded, we'll say Christians, and get in the Word, get in prayer, and
Like, I had an example today where I said, you're better than that. The person was, I don't know if I am. I've
Okay.
made this mistake before. And I said, no, you are better than that. And you know that you are. Have you made mistakes before? Yes. But it's an explicit choice to do
So-
what you're going to do or talking about
when
doing.
you were telling them that, or I don't know, he, she, so I'm going to say them, sorry. When you were telling them that, were you expressing a faith in who they are to them?
Yes.
Okay? And what was their reaction? Obviously, they fought you on it a little
They
bit.
fought me a little
but,
bit.
But at some point, did you see that light bulb go off and go, oh, then there was a realization that, their faith in themselves might have been a little bit restored?
Yes. They
Okay. Good example. What were you going to say?
Well, what's coming to mind is the situation in Arizona where I didn't know what was gonna happen. It was kind of extreme.
How about your friend?
No.
Oh.
Me being scammed
Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't know which one I was trying to follow.
before that.
Gotcha.
I didn't know what was gonna happen, and I kept going into panic attacks and
You kept
like,
spiraling.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then finally, it just was like, the only thing I can do is literally every time I think about it, every time I talked about it, I would have to re-surrender the whole situation back over to God.
Yeah, you had to let go of your own self-control
Mhm.
and let God take over. Okay, was that easy?
Not at first, but once I got into the repetitive habit of every time I brought it up and whatnot,
Okay, and then
it became so easy, and then every time I would do it, I would just have immediate peace.
would you say as a whole through that practice, pardon me, that your anxiety as a whole has improved, generally speaking, across the board with most things?
Yes, because now I can catch it before it gets to that point.
Okay.
And also I have more faith in God just to be able to just do it. Like, give the whole situation over. The house that we have, that was all God.
Yeah.
So, and anything, like my sister surviving, her unfortunate miscarriage.
Yeah.
That was all God. So, like, he's proven time and time again.
So for
that-
you, it turned from more of you were looking for him,
Mhm.
and now there's no looking. It's he's there.
Mhm.
Okay. To me, that's the difference between trust and faith. Right? Is you were looking for that trust to be rewarded, and now that it has, it's no longer trust. It's a known fact. It's it, as much as her hair's red, right? God's gonna be there
Mhm.
and whatnot. Yes, I used your hair as an example. Sorry.
And I also think it's important to state that just because we have faith, it doesn't mean that it's going to be like this amazing solution that is just filled with rainbows and butterflies. Like,
Sure.
God never promises rainbows and butterflies. You might be through the ringer your whole life, but you have faith that God's with you and you're going to meet him.
Yes,
in
but
heaven.
you do. Yeah, like we were about to say, you do. You're supposed to have the faith that no matter what, through that,
Yes.
it's gonna be okay at the end,
Yes.
right?
The end
And I think that's where a
afterlife.
lot of people struggle, right?
Yeah.
They are so focused on the nearsightedness of it that they're not looking at the far side, where does this journey end,
Right.
and can I come out on, and am I going to come out on top, or am I going to be down in the dumps again,
Mhm.
right? Okay. With that being said, I can't believe it, but I was able to stretch it out into 2 nights, Dolores, even with a smaller group. So I'm going to pause this lesson here because we've only done about half the lesson. So that being said, please tune in next week. We're going to do part 2 of faithfulness and whatnot. And I will jump into prayer concerns now. So stay in that room. All right, so like the last few weeks, I have a robust list of prayer concerns. I'm going to read through them. If you have an update, please provide it. If not, I'm gonna assume that there's no change in that we need to keep praying for them, and then I'll move on to the next one. And yes, I know that there's a couple that I need to add on there from people that are not present tonight. So I still have the Fryer's patient on there. So I know that our family friend Lauren Fryer, she's a child psychologist. One of her patients is going through cancer treatment, and just pray for her.
We should get an update on that Friday.
Cool. So we should have an update on that on Friday, but pray for her patient and their family. And then our neighbors, they have a family friend, Caleb. He's the one that had surgery on his cancer. He's done the first part. We're still waiting another month or so before he can have the other surgery to remove the rest of it. So right now he's just kind of in recovery phase. So he's going to be kind of living on the list for a couple more months. And just stay tuned until we have more updates there. I still have your mom and sister on here, the Duncan family. Court date's not for another week or two, right?
She has a mediation meeting on the 3rd.
Of July?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So,
And my mom's house is on the market.
oh,
It's
man.
It's
Okay.
been on the market now for almost a week.
Okay, did not know that part. Okay, so house is on the market, which is a good sign. That means that progress on that front is progress after a while. But then still pray for your sister and the legal issues that to be able to bring the kids here. This is Michaela. So I know you said you had an update. I think you said Friday she has an appointment with a child
In the
neurologist.
in the morning.
Did you want to expand on that? Or
Well, actually, they didn't think they were going to get to meet with a neurologist for about a year, and then
Oh.
she found this other one, and it was going to be late to mid-August, and then she got a call. They're going in the morning.
okay. Is it where you don't have to give me the doctor's name, but where are they located?
Plano.
Is it Plano?
That's at Plano?
I know
Okay.
it's in the
Because
major.
my neurologist is in Rowlett, so I was just curious. Okay, so that is fantastic. So hopefully we'll have some level of update on Sunday.
Possibly.
So I have my sister Lene on here. I know we briefly talked about it before we went live. So for the next couple weeks, it's going to be kind of just pray for her and her family, and hopefully there's improvements over the next couple weeks. The next one, your friend Lucy, who you're getting ready to go visit. Keep praying for her, and then obviously praying for your travel safety. When do you fly?
Friday night,
Friday night. Okay. And when do you come back?
Monday morning.
Perfect. Then we get to see you back on Wednesday. Okay.
That's why I volunteered for food.
Oh, there you go. Ashley's not here, but we're still praying for Joe Rickman. I know most of us have met her and interacted with her at this point, so just keep praying for her. We're still praying for Dell Ingram's family.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing?
They had a full year to say their goodbyes, so I think
Yeah.
overall they're doing, and he had, just a fantastic Christian man, and his family's a Christian family, so they know where he's at.
I'm not trying to be insensitive, but do we want to keep that family on the prayer concerns?
I don't think
Okay.
we need to. It was a very, very moving, touching service. He was
Oh, they already had the service?
they've had the service, yes. 45-year law enforcement, so it was
Oh, wow.
a lot of police officers.
Yeah, that's-
deputies,
Believe
DPS.
me, as a service member that's been in a lot of service funerals,
Yeah, they did the
And those
they
are-
did the end of watch thing. you
those
know,
are tear-jerking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very touching.
So I've got Jimmy Ponton on here. That is the pastor's little help. Not little. Sorry. That's the pastor's helper. Sorry. I think little. I thought little because of our kids, and when they help me, I'm like, oh yeah, my little helper, and that's kind of where my mind went. Jimmy. So we're still praying for Jimmy. I know the last time we talked last week, they're still trying to figure out everything that's going on with him. I know that Ron and Jimmy came to an agreement that while it's the thick of summer and it's super hot out, maybe he not help Ron. That way we're not worsening his condition. So just keep praying for him. I've got, if you guys remember from a few weeks ago when Ronnie Baker preached, he asked for prayer concerns on his friend Philip. I'm going to leave him on here until we see Ronnie again and we can ask and then kind of go from there. I've been leaving it on here even though there was an improvement, but I kept Raylan's ears on here.
Yeah,
So
we can take that
we're
off.
keeping, what's up?
We can take that off.
You want to take it off?
Yeah,
Okay.
she's been cleared by her doctor. So.
Cleared by, are we saying Lori? Lori's her doctor,
No,
right?
she's been cleared by her EMT.
Oh, nice.
Real doctor.
Where's Lori?
God, I wish you would have been here for that one. I would like to have seen her face. So a couple weeks ago, we added our really good friend Sandy Adams. She was the one that got assaulted right outside her residence. I know that she's in the middle of doing legal action now, and I think there was a setback on her entry too, right? Didn't it move on her?
The bone has shifted.
The bone is shifted.
We want to do surgery, but she's not a good candidate for surgery. So
Yeah. So she has some other
Kind of a
pre-existing
mess right now.
conditions that kind of they can't do pins or anything like that like they can traditionally with most breaks and stuff like that. So they're wanting to do surgery, and she's like she said, she's not a good candidate for surgery per se because of some of her pre-existing medical conditions. So there's some kind of confusion and wonder on how they're going to proceed other than time. So, and it sounds like it might just be a time thing where they just let it heal naturally, which would mean it's going to be a lot more painful for a lot longer period of time. So just pray for her and her healing, and then pray that she gets some resolution legally, because it's technically, for lack of better words, without going into a lot of details, it's basically her new neighbor moving in across the street. So we're hoping that legal action can take place. That way she can be safe down the road too. Miss Linda's not here, but we've been praying for Julia's dad, Mike English. We know that he had, I think he had an appointment earlier this week.
Yeah.
So,
Julia told me that he was cleared, no cancer still. Got it.
Wow,
Praise
okay.
the Lord.
That is awesome.
We know
So,
about Alan.
Don't know.
I
about
was.
that.
yeah, I don't know about Alan. I know on Sunday he was kind of hit or miss. He was having a semi-rough
Well,
Sunday.
Isn't he having a procedure tomorrow? Isn't it tomorrow?
Is he?
He's having a procedure, but I wasn't sure when it was.
I think
He
it's
is at,
tomorrow.
okay, let me put him on here.
He went in this morning.
Oh, this
Yeah.
morning.
Right now he's watching live, so.
Good. Hi.
Oh,
Alan.
has he
Give
responded?
us a thumbs up, Alan.
No, I just have a heart on here that says from Alan, so.
Aw.
Okay, we're praying for you, Alan. Hoping you feel better.
Yes,
Hoping he's here on Sunday.
yes.
I'm going to leave Mike English on here just because they're probably going to test him a couple more times to make sure the cancer's gone. And I think it'd be good to have an update from Linda too. So I'll leave him on here. The Smith family, how are they doing?
Baby's still in the hospital.
So they're Smith family. They're the baby that was incubated since birth, still in the hospital in Arizona. So continue to pray for them, and hopefully we'll get a better update in the coming weeks. So on here I have Roxy, and I know last Wednesday she was having pain. I think you were the one to see her last. How's she doing?
She's doing better than last week, but she's still hurting.
Okay.
She's a little nauseous today. I
Yeah.
saw her right
Right.
before we came. She's got a little upset stomach. So I'm not sure if it's a virus or just kind of crashing from all the stress of the week.
Yeah.
So I'll leave her on here, and then I'll kind of pivot to Pastor Ron. So he pulled a back muscle, and he's on a muscle relaxer, so he's pretty stiff. And he was gracious enough to come up here and set everything up for us and turn the AC on early for us, so that way I was cooler before getting here. So he, despite his pain, he was still able to push through and do all this. But pray for him to at least recover enough to where Sunday is at least a little bit more bearable for him, but just keep him in your prayers. And then Roxy brought up Kelly Hitch. It's her cousin. I think it's a he, right?
Yes.
Okay. He was here on Sunday. I don't know if I didn't get a chance to meet him, so I don't know who it was.
He's
But
just, he had to have a unexpected arm surgery, so.
yeah.
we got him
And I know who it is because it was the only guy in
Yeah.
the arm sling. So
Sling.
I didn't get a chance to meet him because of the chaos. So hopefully he's doing better, and keep praying for him. The next one I have is your student with the anger issues. Keep praying.
Yes, but there is slight improvement.
Okay.
So.
Good. We will keep praying for them. And then, Haley, I have you next. And this is because you missed last Wednesday with your stomach issues.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you know what it is, and that you're having to go through a few different things to try to remedy it. I'm not going into details.
No, that's okay.
So,
A small detail that can be prayed for is I have follow-up appointments with the nutrition. Part of that has already been answered because insurance is going to cover several of those appointments.
Okay.
But just that they're fruitful appointments.
okay. Are those next week?
I don't have it set yet. I filled out paperwork today
Okay.
and did insurance, but I'm waiting for a call tomorrow to get it actually scheduled.
Yeah, good luck with insurance answering quickly.
Yeah.
And then I have another Alan one on here. So he brought up how his tinnitus has been flaring up and whatnot. So I know what that's like. It doesn't improve. So if it's bothering him this much to bring it up, it's probably going to unfortunately get a little bit worse. So and obviously with pressure changes with our weather here recently, it makes it even more fun. So just pray for his sanity and his ability to handle that ever increasing pain. And then last week I had Miss Emmy on there. She had a migraine and missed Wednesday. Obviously she's here tonight, so we're thankful for that. I know she's still, it's not the same migraine, it's a different migraine. I know she was a little under the weather earlier tonight because she was laying down, but yeah, but pressure changes for her and whatnot. So keep her in your prayers. And then, does anybody have any new ones?
My mama.
Sorry.
I'm gonna
So
tell her you forgot her.
I didn't forget her because I did the prayer concern before Wednesday. I sent that out. What was
We
it,
actually
yesterday?
talked about her before we started.
We did.
too.
Yeah.
We did.
You gave us enough.
It's a long list. Bear with me.
It is a long list.
So, for those not really aware, Emmy's mom, Rhonda, she's in the hospital. She didn't originally go in for pneumonia, but now she's got pneumonia.
No, she did. That's
Oh,
what
she did?
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
what
she went in for something else.
No, her family doctor told her that she didn't have pneumonia.
Oh,
and
that's right.
Then they ended up telling her to go to the ER and she had pneumonia.
Yep. So she's in there now. She's fighting pneumonia. So pray for her. She is improving,
She is
and
improving.
there is a hope / expectation that she'll be out of the hospital tomorrow afternoon, provided she keeps improving. So that's the good thing, is that she is getting better.
She is.
So
She's a fighter.
yep. We had one more. What was the other one? Does somebody else have another prayer concern while I think? No. I cannot think. We had another one. Worse than to say an unspoken prayer that we can't think about.
We'll remember tonight.
Yeah, we'll remember tonight. So just an unspoken prayer that we at the moment can't think about, that obviously somebody needs. So just help us remember, so that way we can actually do a better job praying for it. That being said, the last thing I have on here, as always, is the shoe drive. We're doing really, really well. Everybody's doing a good job of giving, so we're highly appreciative of that. It's doing well. It looks like we're going to hit the new goal of 40 pretty easily, which is fantastic. And the only other caveat I have to that is we already have what we're going to do as a church kind of fired up and ready to do next. So just pray that we can iron out those details and present it to you guys on Sunday with a little bit more of a better plan, and then just help our church with those missions moving forward. That being said, I've got a part of a hymn to read as our closing prayer. So if you'll bow your heads with me, the hymn is, "Oh, for a faith that will not shrink. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of an earthly woe. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempests rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give us such a faith as this, and then, whatever may come, we'll taste, even here, the hallowed bliss of an eternal home." Lord, help us with faith now and forever. Amen. Thank you guys for being here tonight. It was a pretty lively discussion despite the smaller crowd, so I appreciate you guys for being